This podcast is brought to you by Market Convention. Ever want to visit Mammoth with your Aflac friends and family? Do you ever want to ski the slopes? Do you ever want to go into the old town? Even go hiking? Well, in Mammoth, Aflac is paying for it all if you qualify. Do it for our 2027 Market Convention. Welcome to the LA Legends, where Aflac pros sharpen skills, swap stories, and build the LA South market one legend at a time. I'm Michael Fisher.
And I'm Michelle Lee. Today, we're talking about one of the smartest and often overlooked ways to grow a sales team, nominations.
And our guest is Melissa Stewart. She is a senior manager of recruiting growth strategy. She's helped scale sales organizations by turning top performers into top talent magnets. She's been a RSC that I've looked up to personally, and we're very lucky to have you in person.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm excited to be here.
I think that you might be our first YouTube video guest live in our amazing studio. So, Melissa, can you give us a little background, just a little bit about how you came to Aflac and all of that before we dive into all the tips and tricks and all the fun stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I came to Aflac at the age of 22 and was a bartender in that industry. The more you work, the more you get paid. So I wanted that as a career, but interviewing for other positions, I was finding basically this salary, I couldn't even comprehend it. Then it was all a pay cut because I made pretty good money bartending. And so I was very frustrated with that. I wanted to do pharmaceutical sales because that sounded fun. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I had 3 friends who was doing it, and they all were getting out of the business because it was changing rapidly. 2 of those people went into insurance sales. So I started actually with a different company that shall remain nameless, doing Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement, and it was awful. It was horrible. I hated every minute of it. So going into homes, I'm allergic to cats. The pet of choice of the elderly is cats. So it was just really bad. And with that, I was complaining at the bar that I was at, still doing that because Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement is very hard to sell. And I was complaining to a coworker at the beginning of my shift, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like I'm going to be a bartender forever. I'm definitely not staying at this insurance company. And a regular customer was sitting there eavesdropping, and he said, "You should work for Aflac." And I was like, wow. Well, what's an Aflac? And that's how it started. So it was I was a nomination from a person who was just sitting there drinking his Wednesday happy hour Labatt Blue. And
wow.
I didn't even like that guy.
Yeah. Did he work at Aflac though?
No. Oh, his girlfriend did.
Oh, wow.
So he was like, she makes great money. We go on trips all the time. I'm like, I'm in. Yeah. What else is there to know?
I'm able to drink at the bar on Wednesday.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. You, I don't want to fast forward through your entire Aflac story, but you were a very, very successful RSE, and Aflac was able to poach you out of that position to help us actually with our entire recruiting process. What made you actually say yes to stepping out of that role and moving into the role that you're currently in?
It's an interesting story, and I wouldn't have chosen it myself. The universe shoved me in this direction, essentially. In February of 24, I broke my wrist ice skating. That's what I get for trying to embrace winter. So, and it was like snapped in half. So I had to have a surgery, everything like that. I genuinely feel like that was the universe saying, slow down, take a minute for yourself. I had surgery on Wednesday. I was back in the office on Monday. So I did not listen to the universe. About a month later, my top district, close to $2 million district, her brother passed away suddenly, obviously shattered her. So I'm broken with my wrist, running her district and the region, which was 6.5 million at the time. And then stress got me and I started passing out. I had like chronic dizziness to where I felt like vertigo in waves.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to drive for a couple months. It was awful. So my doctor said it was either heart, head, or stress. And we checked all the things with the heart and the head, and it wasn't those. So he's like, calm down.
You need to calm down.
Yeah. And so I decided to step out of the regional sales coordinator role. I told my market director in May and said, I'll finish out the year. But this is impacting my health and I need to take a step back. I had things in my personal life too. It wasn't all work now that I look at it. But so that is why I stepped out of the role in October. Dave Epfel was the producer growth coordinator for the Northeast. He got promoted to a market director. He called, he said, we want you in this role. He's like, you're just not going to be an agent. I'm like, I'm not excited to be an agent, actually. As much as I loved the sales and stuff, I just knew I was going to be bored very, very quickly. So I was like, you know what? Let's try it. This sounds fun, unique, interesting. I would love to go around and talk to coordinators in the Northeast Territory and help them with accounts and coordinator expansion and recruiting. And then I was in that role for 2 months. And Amy Ludwig, who I report to now, the director of producer growth, she created this role and said, I need you in this role. So I have the record of holding the shortest PGC.
That's awesome.
2 months. Yep.
And Amy is fantastic at doing that, of being like, no, we need to create this and you need to be that person to do it. And we do say this often, and almost every time that you come, it's like we don't often have a lot of headquarter type speakers inside of our organization or event, but you are actually somebody that you speak the absolute like truth and cut at people's core.
Everything happens for a reason. And I genuinely believe I would have never stepped out of that role unless something like that happens.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I love the RSC position. I'm sure I'll go back, but definitely self-care is a big deal.
Yeah, it matters. Yeah, it's a marathon. It's a marathon.
That is. Funny enough about marathons. Fun fact about Melissa, she is a runner.
Well, not a good one.
Better than most of us can say.
Better than me.
So let's actually set the stage because, we nominations or just growing a team in general. So let's start up the base. What is the difference, or what do you actually mean when it comes to nominating versus a traditional referral?
Yeah, so I feel like a referral could be, hey, you should go see so-and-so, where I feel like a nomination is like, I need this connection to happen. Like this is meant to be. And so nominating, I think there's two different ways to do it. There's nominating where you stand, and that's kind of the referral. That's the stranger that impressed you for a couple of seconds. And then there's, your brother-in-law or your neighbor or your friend who you're like, you would absolutely crush it doing this. And that's more like headhunting. And, you want that person, you need that person on your team, and they need this in their lives and they don't know it yet. So I think the referral is a little more of a softball.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said headhunting. That's a good way to think about it, too.
Yeah.
Very specific about who you want to talk to and what they can accomplish.
I'm actually glad that you guys did that distinction right now, because I've never even separated the two. And we always talk about like it's the same thing, and it's not the same thing at all. They're completely different.
100%. And I think of stories like Megan Mutri, she's on my team right now. She's celebrating her 10-year anniversary with Aflac today.
Crazy.
She was recruited by RSC Andy Shaw in the Boston area, and he spent 6 years headhunting her. And Megan is a complete amazing asset to Aflac, and we wouldn't have her here today if he only talked to her once. He was just persistent, and 6 years of just wearing her down.
Well, that's that emotional connection, as you were bringing up, that meaningful connection. That's what nominations are. That there is an attachment of some sort beyond just your typical like acquaintance that you might know as well. So what makes nominations so powerful for a sales organization like ours?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. So when there is that personal connection, I feel like, is it chicken or the egg? Is it the person is going to crush it naturally, or is it that maybe we level up our training a little because there's that personal connection? And it's probably a little bit of both. And so I think that for an organization like this, there's, to use Nate's slogan, you got to have a lot of belief in the company, in what you're being told in the interview process, in trusting the process. And if you have that personal connection, you have more belief, because especially if they know you personally and they've been to your home and sat in your bougie car and so they know you make good money, they believe that the outcome is possible because they're seeing it. And when you're interviewing a stranger, they have to have a lot of belief and trust in you. And oftentimes it's just not as strong as somebody that has that personal connection, a nomination.
Sales School is hosted by Michelle Lee, the #1 market trainer in all of Aflac. Want to sell more insurance? Want to make more money? Want to learn how to sell the best things? Go to sales school.
So what I would love for somebody to get out of this is to simply think, what could I do to change somebody's life with a simple question? And that's whether they ask it or they don't. So I think about where my life would be right now if Gary drinking Labatt Blue on a Wednesday at 4:30 didn't say, why wouldn't you work for Aflac? And like, I just got chills thinking of that. I don't think I would have found Aflac otherwise. And so what if he didn't ask me that question? What if he just looked me up and down and thought she wouldn't be good here?
Yeah.
You know, he was a regular, so he like almost convinced me. I was like, Affleck's huge. I don't know. I'm little old me. And he's like, no, you're like, I see you working, and all the other bartenders at the beginning of the shift are standing down there gabbing. You're out here working. He's like, you stay late. I see that. Like you would do great, and you got a good personality. And I was like, oh, like I almost needed him to convince me I could do this. And so I just think about that often of how many nominations I've brought into the business and things like that, and watching other people on my team that people brought in their own nominations and watching their life change is so powerful. And to think you have that control to be able to just simply ask somebody some questions and you could change their life for the better and hit that Aflac lottery.
It's crazy. Yeah. I think about it almost in the exact same way of like the way I was nominated. It's not a glamorous moment. Like it was literally like, yeah, like getting laid off from Sears and then my friend being like, hey, do you want to like try insurance or whatever? I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. And like, let's play Halo after. And then like, that was like basically it. But I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
if that did not happen, the trajectory of my life is disturbing. Like
Right.
it was not going great.
Yeah.
Like, not go. And then the other one you brought up about like when you actually nominate somebody, it was my first nomination. It was just my friend that broke his arm coincidentally, and then not ice skating though.
Yeah.
But he was the first one that made me be like, oh wait, I need to level up. I need to level up the training. I need to do everything because somebody I care about. He's putting his trust in me. So I'd say it made me actually get my shit together,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. So
I love that. I was just talking with Joe Nash earlier today, and he and I were talking about the same thing of when you start to train somebody or help them, whether you're in a coordinator position or not, if it's your friend, you're obviously going to go out and prospect together and do those things. When you start to see them in action, you can see it from a mile away what's missing. So then you naturally level up your sales skills because you can see it happening from a different lens. And then you're like, no, this part's missing. So now subconsciously, I'm never going to skip that part again when I'm the one doing the speaking because I've identified that piece and how powerful it is when you see it missing.
100%.
And so I
Yeah.
feel like I just got better at sales myself when I started working with other people, especially in a coordinator role, because you're not skipping steps or cutting corners. You're doing it correctly. And when you know, that works the best. Weird.
Crazy. But it is funny because like you'll also see like, oh, where did that bad habit come from? And you're like, oh, I taught them that. Like,
Yeah.
like that's a that's a real one.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets you.
That pressure of when you work with someone, when you're in a coordinator role, is so true of you have to level up. Because I did better as a CIT than I did as an associate myself.
Same.
Yep, same.
Because I was responsible for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like very eye-opening moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody hasn't actually gone through any kind of nominating conversations before or has never actually even like you said, even been like, oh man, that person would be amazing. Actually having like that like headhunting mentality, what would you do as like their first steps? How do you get people started?
Yeah. I would say just ask the question. You really don't know what is going on inside of people's brains. Like I've heard some people say, well, this person's a VP of a bank, so they wouldn't be interested in this. And then I think of like Kevin McCarthy, who's PGC in the Northeast, and he's been in all the roles. And he came to Aflac like 21 years ago from a 6-figure plus income. And so what if somebody looked him up and down and said, well, he's making a lot of money, he's successful, I'm not going to talk to him about this opportunity because they make that wrongful assumption that he's good where he's at.
Yes.
And so I think it's like you just never know. And you don't have to, attack
weird.
people with
Yeah.
it and be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, hey, how's your job going? And just feel out the waters and be like, man, you would kill it here. And here's why I think that. If you ever are interested in learning more, let me know. I can get you set up with I love the line of like, I can guarantee you an interview. It's so exclusive. But it's basically, I think just letting people know that we're always looking and we're always looking for great people. And I don't shy away from that because like the bar I worked at, I remember people would come in and ask for, are you hiring? And my boss would always say, we are always looking for the next best person. And so he was never saying we're at capacity, even if we were. And so I think that here, if you don't want to nominate, you're selling yourself short on so many things, like we just talked about, even leveling up your own skill set. But obviously there's bonuses attached to it. And then the warm fuzzies of changing somebody's life. So why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. Also, you brought up a great one, which I think a lot of people mistake. You were like, oh my gosh, like me,
Flattered.
like I could be there. Like that's something that a lot of times we forget. And yeah, I know I do for sure. So
It's so true. And I think that when modeling the behavior as a coordinator or an agent to someone else who's never done it, that person who's never done it is out prospecting and getting their teeth kicked in every day and being rejected. With nominating, it's not like that.
yeah.
Even if the answer's no, they're flattered.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, thank you. So it's not a negative exchange. And I think that that's probably why a lot of people hesitate on doing it.
Yeah. And they're like also like trying. I think the other one that you said is it somebody that you truly believe that they would be like successful in that career or this career? Like that's a huge one. If they don't check that box and don't do it, like that's the other thing. It's like, yeah.
Well, that's with nominations. You actually have the people that you talk to, right? The people in your life, and not everybody's going to be a good fit that can handle that kind of rejection or the struggles is in building this kind of career that we all have had. So it is being the choice of whether to nominate someone, but someone that has that capability, putting it in front of them and allowing them to make that decision as well, and not removing that decision from them. I think that's where a lot of people forget is that by you not offering it and putting it in front of them the same way when we do our elevations to a business, if you're not putting it in front of them, they don't even know they have that choice. I know a lot of teams are trying to build, and we've been talking about nominations. We can talk ourselves blue about nominations, but building a nomination culture in a district team to a region, how do we actually get our associates now, or even our coordinators, right? Excited about nominating people in. How
Yeah.
do we drive that motivation?
So I think it's all just habit forming. We looked at nominating on my team as part of our everyday process. When we went in to do a field drop into a business in person to set a meeting, we were looking for one of three outcomes. Obviously, the DM scheduling that meeting was first and foremost. But if we couldn't get that for whatever reason on the spot, the other two options were, and you got to read the room, right? If you're getting kicked out, you're not going to stop and ask for a referral. Pleasant and don't look crazy busy. We were looking for, hey, you're obviously out and about drumming up business. Do you know the business owner next door? We're going to stop over and introduce ourselves. So you can get a soft referral, get the name.
For sure.
Or they're corporate out of Ohio. And I'm not going to do that cold call because we all know how that goes.
Exactly.
And so then I would flip the script to, well, maybe you can help me in a different way. We're growing our team. We're super busy. Drop some quota numbers. We did 160% of quota last year. We are growing. I'm looking for people with self-motivation and people skills, kind of like yourself. You got a great personality. Do you know anybody who's looking for work that fits that mold? Could I leave a few business cards with you? And if you think of anyone, send them my way. And that was part of our everyday process. And so, it just made it habitual for everyone. And I wanted the agents to fumble over those words on a stranger because then when they're sitting with their brother-in-law during Thanksgiving weekend, now they can have that conversation with confidence because they've already gotten through the wording multiple times. And now it's second nature to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was always funny when I would run regional meetings at hotel conference centers and stuff like that. And my team would nominate the staff to death.
That's awesome.
I'm like, guys, you got to calm down. We're going to get kicked out of this place.
Yeah.
But they would it was just so second nature to them. And if they saw somebody that even slightly impressed them, they were nominating them.
Yeah. I love one of the things that you talked about with our team back at our hub meeting in December was how basically not every day, but like most days, or at least every Friday, your team would actually do something to, because we always have something to celebrate, whether it's new accounts, somebody hitting their all-star fireball, somebody hitting their quota, whatever it is. Closing their first account, but you would always try to get them to celebrate that, and it wasn't at the same place. Like you would
Right.
actually. So, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Any excuse I had to celebrate somebody, we would do it. And we would go again to like the chain for restaurants that were not a client or couldn't be a client
Right.
anytime soon. So like
Big mistake
Applebee's.
that my team would always do. It's like stop recruiting the same waitress at the
Oh,
place that we
yeah.
go to every Friday.
Apple
guys.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you got to do that headhunting too.
Yeah.
But yeah, switch it up. Go to like a Chili's or an Applebee's, or, just switch it up and go to the chain hop. And we intentionally would do it at like 4:30. Again, this is how I came to AFLAC. So when I was like, how am I going to nominate on a consistent basis as a regional or a district? I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to take my team out and celebrate. And I'm also going to show and model nominating and hopefully get one from being the bartender, because that's where I came from. And so we would sit at the bar, and if it was like an agent who just hit super fast start, for example, I would bring the district, the agent, myself, and we would sit at the bar. It's early enough that it's slower. The bartender is the night shift person. So just like myself, I didn't have another obligation during the day. Coming onto AFLAC was very low risk for me because I kept my bartending position at night.
Yeah.
So I had nothing to lose. And they think like us, the more they work, the more you get paid.
Performance-based.
Performance-based. They have good personalities, like better, right? I've met a couple bartenders with some not so good personalities.
I've met some AFLAC people with that. Not so good personalities.
That's true. That's true. So, and then we would just wait for that bartender to kind of be in front of us. And then I would obnoxiously celebrate. Cheers, and speak louder than I normally would, and I'm so excited for you. What are you going to do with your $1,200 bonus? Congratulations. And inevitably, that bartender is going to say, what are you celebrating? And that just opens the conversation right up. And it's so easy from that point to, what do you do during the day? And if whether the answer is something or nothing, it doesn't matter. I'm still nominating that person and seeing if I can pull them in. And again, you're sitting there with a new agent who's impressionable, watching this positive interaction happen, and the bartender's drooling over a $1,200 bonus because they're performance driven too.
Yeah, they are.
Two key things you said there. One, doing it out when you're in the field, making it habitual, and then showing them how to do it live right there in an environment that's how you got nominated as well.
Yeah.
Showing them the steps and doing it again and again and again. And that's, I think, the role of leadership when it comes to getting people on your team to nominate, because you're doing it side by side with them.
That's right.
Like everything else we do when it comes to prospecting, closing an account, doing enrollment, modeling that behavior, and servicing an account too. It all starts with the person that's training them.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't think that a lot of people realize nationally, what does a region spend on just getting one person through the door from like a recruiting standpoint? I mean, it's thousands.
Yeah.
It's like people underestimate that, and they don't realize like the cost and all of that. But like when we actually have somebody that is nominated, I mean, their success is they're statistically 10 times more likely to actually have a really successful career here just because it is a nomination. So
absolutely.
it's pretty incredible.
Start your week strong with the Monday morning meeting. Tune in for team accolades that celebrate success, contests that keep you motivated, and announcements that keep you ahead. Don't just start your Monday, own it with the Monday morning meeting.
So, Michelle, why don't you kick off rapid fire and this wonderful podcast today?
Well, I'm going to do my new question for the year is, if you can put, if your stress could be a mascot, what would it be?
My stress?
Your stress.
I'm thinking of, if I have an 8-year-old daughter, so this may not be relevant to some people, but Inside Out 2, that movie, there's one of the emotions
Just saw that on the airplane.
Anxiety.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that is, she's like, ah! And she's orange and ragged and, just a hot mess. But I think it would be that.
Okay.
Yeah, that just like that movie. I was like, wow, that spoke to me. I understand. One of my favorites is a book. It could even be a podcast or a movie that you've recommended to more people or given to more people. What have you gifted or given or recommended to more people?
Monday Morning Habits was a book that I'd always given to my team. And actually, as a district, I did not like hearing my own voice all day long during the Monday morning meetings.
Yeah,
So I would have a person read a chapter. It was like a book club type thing.
yeah,
We'd
Love
all
book
read the
clubs.
same chapter in the same week, but I would delegate it to somebody different each week to be like, you would know, Michelle, that you were coming in that Monday morning to read, not read the full chapter, but to pull out the highlights from the chapter
Mm.
and then talk about how it spoke to you in regards to our Aflac business. And so that was such a good one because it was so simple. It was
I love that.
such an easy read, but it was so relevant to our business. And that one made a big impact on our team. And it was nice to have just another 20-minute segment in the Monday morning meeting that was consistent and it involved the team. And they were able to, they had some ownership in the leadership. It was cool.
Yeah, that does help people level up, even from a leadership perspective too, of having that assignment and then
Yeah,
having that ownership too, which is huge.
yeah,
We love that.
definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Melissa, this has been incredible. And honestly, like we could have gone a long time on this
Yeah.
one, but we definitely want to have you back so we could dive deeper into recruiting, best practices, things that you've done. I'm going to read this. So if listeners take one thing away from about growing sales teams through nominations, we want to get a final thought from you. What's that one thing that they should try to focus on or do or take away from this conversation?
I would just say if you can make nominating a part of your everyday and a part of your habit, that will create the culture. And it's a slow burn and you got to trust the process, but it all starts with that leader. And they have to make that decision. It might take, there's excuses all day, but excuses soften the blow when you fail. It's put it in your calendar, literally put it in your calendar to nominate. Make that effort and then advertise it to the team, and eventually it'll become a habit.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge one, and I'm glad that you had a good drop the mic moment there. Because yeah, putting it in your calendar and actually just making that decision. I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge. All right, Michelle, I'll let you close up shop.
Well, thank you for joining us on the LA Legends. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share this episode with someone building a sales team right now. Thank you for listening to the LA Legends. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and leading with purpose.